Hey guys, 2021 has been a phenomenal year for movies, and it is that time to put together a top 10 list of my favorite films of the year. This is that moment at the end of the year that most people who review films look forward to, including myself, and that's putting together a top 10 list of the films that I enjoyed from the past year. And 2021 has been actually a really good year for films. I've seen a lot of great stuff I've reviewed on the channel, stuff I have not reviewed on the channel. So you're going to see a healthy mix of both, I think, in this list. Because I didn't start the channel up till about halfway through the year. So there's maybe some movies from the first part of the year that got onto the list, or maybe some stuff here in crunch time the last few weeks that I've been kind of fitting in. I just haven't had time to put reviews up for. So maybe those will pop in. So hopefully you'll get some surprises out of them. But before we go any further, I would also like to encourage people to like the video. It helps the channel out. Hit that subscribe button. It means a lot, so you guys could also get notifications and stuff for when I drop new videos. And also leave your top 10 list down in the description below for the 2021 films you've seen this year. Go from 10 to 1, 1 to 10, doesn't matter. It's your list. And that's where our opinions will differ. I mean, that's what's great about film, is that my opinion will be different from your opinion. Just because my list might not have some of the movies you enjoyed on it doesn't mean that the movies you saw weren't great. As long as you enjoyed them, that's all that matters. So first we have an honorable mention on my list. And that honorable mention is Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's right. I couldn't find a place to put it on the list because I was torn. While it did come out this year on HBO Max, it was a director's cut. Wasn't sure if it was worthy of being included in the list of 2021 films to be released this year, because the 2017 version that came out, while yes, might not have been Zack Snyder's original vision for the Justice League movie, it did hold a lot of the same plot points that he, was his vision. And this director's cut, it was just tough for me. So I decided to just leave that headache and just make this an honorable mention, because I do love Zack Snyder's Justice League film. It is phenomenal. It is a 4-hour-long epic. Yes, that's right. It is 4 hours long. Look, it had great pacing, and you can watch it in several different ways. You could break it up into the little segments that they do, which are about 20, 30-minute chunks. They have different parts labeled in the movie you could check out. So it's not going to be a complete burden. I think it works either watching it like that in segments, or even just sitting down and watching the full thing front to back. It is great. I would highly recommend checking it out. Hopefully you can find time to fit it in. I know it's long, but I think it is very much worth it. It may actually surprise you and might even change your opinion on how Zack Snyder was handling the DC characters. So we go to the proper list now, and we have my number 10 film, which is the 25th installment of the James Bond franchise, Daniel Craig's final outing, which is No Time to Die. This film was... Yes, this one was almost 3 hours long. I remember the last 20 minutes having to go to the bathroom really bad in the theater, but it was so good. It's so worth it. It's shot beautifully. It's a great story, and I think it is a fantastic send-off for, in my opinion, the best James Bond we've had. If you haven't seen any of the previous James Bond films that Craig has done, they're all interconnected in some fashion. They kind of... bring back some old characters from the other films he's done, and some plot points, some villains, and everything kind of gets brought into this, and they wrap it up in a big, nice bow. And I think it's a great send-off for the character, and I think a great way to start my list. At number 9, I have a film that not a lot of people checked out, but it is probably the most viewed video on my YouTube channel, which was my review for Riders of Justice, a fantastic film starring Mads Mikkelsen. And I can't stop gushing about this movie, especially now. I'll still tell people about it. I love this movie. It was a great little action piece. You go in thinking it's a big action revenge movie, but it's got a lot more heart. It's got a lot more to say, and it makes you think about a lot of stuff. And I think it really strikes a balance that going into it, you probably wouldn't expect. And I think this is, a very well done movie. A lot of fun. I certainly was so glad that I got this, because I bought it on a whim. I was like, I heard good things about it, so I bought the Blu-ray, watched the Blu-ray, and I couldn't stop gushing about it. So, so Riders of Justice at number 9. Go find it if you haven't seen it yet. At number 8 is a little old music documentary that came out this year, and it's probably not the one you're thinking about. While, yes, that one you're probably thinking about was pretty good, This one it just struck me a little differently. It was a whole different animal, and it's a documentary called Summer of Soul. And I talked about it. It was one of my first reviews I did on the channel with my narration before I decided to get on camera. But it was such a moving, powerful piece. Great bits of music from that concert that they had there in the park in New York. And I just think that if you haven't had a chance to go check it out, I think it's still on Hulu. It was a Hulu original. Go check this thing out. It is 2 hours of your time well spent, because not only do you get a great, interesting background to that era, and all the stuff happening in New York at the time with the civil rights stuff, but you also get great music, great action. Some you might have heard of, some you might not have heard of. At this little festival, this concert that was put on for the summer that, really was incredible. Stuff that was filmed 50 years ago that most of it, if not everything, was not seen until recently when Questlove helped put all this together. So, yeah, I would recommend going to see this. If you like documentaries, this should be towards the top of your list. At number 7, we're going to stay with the music theme here, because number 7 is Netflix's Tick, Tick, Boom. I was floored when I saw this. I heard good stuff about it. I finally got around to seeing it not too long ago, and, before I knew it, I was, all these songs stuck in my brain, little earworms. I bought the movie soundtrack, or the actors doing the songs like in the movie here, and it's incredible. Directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who many people will know as the guy who did Hamilton. He's written a lot of the music for a lot of the Disney films that have come out recently, including Encanto, and I'm sure several others that I can't name at the top of my head. But Lin-Manuel Miranda has a great track record of putting together great musical pieces, and here, with him directing this as his directorial debut, is utterly fantastic. I was smiling from the opening of the movie, and I'm not a big musical guy, I'll tell you that up front. I'm not a big fan of musicals, but when it is done right, when it is done like this, and it's different and it's captivating, like this just was on a whole different level. It was unique, it was interesting and heartfelt and emotional, and it hit all those beats that I like from a movie. But on top of it, having these great unique songs, the styles, it brought something out of this movie that not many films like it could do. It was like a rock opera, and I was so engaged from like moment one, and I didn't feel any of the, time just flew by, and I'm so glad I watched it. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet, you should. It's really well done. Andrew Garfield is an incredible actor, and I'm so implore you to go to Netflix and fire this up as soon as you can. At number 6, we're going to have a film here that I'm sure a lot of people will yell at me for, and it should be my number 1, and I'm sure some people will say it's their number 1. I reviewed it. I liked it a lot. I saw it a couple times in theaters. I don't think it's perfect, but number 6 is Spider-Man No Way Home. I think, a great capper to the Tom Holland trilogy of Spider-Man films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if you're a Marvel fan, obviously, it's part of this whole big Marvel universe, so it's cool to see that, and how it kind of connects to some of the old Spider-Man movies we've seen in the past was a lot of fun. Again, I'm not going to spoil it here. If you haven't seen it yet, I still implore you, go see it. It is great. I think a lot of people, I won't say they overhyped it. I mean, you feel how you feel about a movie, but I think that there were some issues with the movie that people have overlooked, and that's just my opinion. And that's what dragged it down. It was a little higher on my list, actually, prior to my second viewing. It has been kind of knocked down upon my second viewing. I still think it's great. Obviously, it's still in my top 10. I'm still talking about it. I would definitely go see this again in theaters. It is good. I thoroughly enjoy it, but, there were just a few little things that kind of knocked it down a few pegs for me. But it's Spider-Man. It's fun, and what I think it really did was, it made $1 billion. So it's the first movie to make $1 billion since The Rise of Skywalker did it back in 2019. So this has done a lot for the movie industry, I think, and I hope that people keep going back to the theaters, even if it's to see this or find something else to go see. It is great. I haven't seen the movie theater packed the way it's been in my area in a very long time, the way it's been, and it's a great sight to see. It's done a lot. It's not just, this will always be a movie, I think, remembered not just for the cool cameos and story it tells and where it fits in the Marvel universe, but I also think it'll be remembered for kind of revitalizing movies or movie theaters at a time that, we haven't had a movie crack $100 million opening weekend domestically here in the United States since 2019. And to have something like this, come out and make the third, or actually I think it made the second biggest opening box office weekend domestically in the United States ever, is incredible, and in a pandemic still. So this movie, I could keep gushing about it. It is great. I'm sure, like I said, a lot of you have it higher on your list, but for me, it sits at number 6. At number 5, I have Dune. Dune might not have done as good at the box office as some would hope, but Warner Brothers releasing stuff on HBO Max at the same time as in theaters definitely hurt its box office, but thank goodness it is getting its sequel, as this is part 1 of a bigger story. And I love this movie. The visuals and the storytelling, bringing that book to live action in this fashion is should have been borderline impossible. It was phenomenal. There wasn't really much that I remember feeling bored. There might have been some parts that dragged, but the story is still interesting and captivating enough that I think it, even though it kind of drops off at the end without a proper ending, it still was a fantastic film, technically and story-wise. Across the board, great acting. And if you haven't got a chance to see this yet, I think it might be back on HBO Max. If not, I know the Blu-ray is coming out next month, so you have plenty of time to check that one out before Dune Part 2 comes out. I think this will please a lot of people. I'm surprised at how many people actually enjoyed it. I thought it might have been a little too high concept-y for the average film goer, but I've heard a lot of people actually come out and say they dug it, which makes me happy because I want to see more of this movie and its little universe it's building. At number 4, we have James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. This movie was fun. This movie was bloody and gory and just all sorts of just raunchy at times, but it just, at its core, it had a lot of heart, and I think James Gunn nailed that balance. Not everything was perfect, mind you, but I think a lot of this movie was so fun. It's part of the DC universe, and there's a lot of great stuff if you're a DC fan, and even if you're not a DC fan, I think James Gunn brought a sensibility to this that, any person can go in, they get the premise, they get it. You don't have to have seen any of the previous Suicide Squad movie. Shoot, you probably don't even need to see most of the other DC movies to sit down and enjoy this one, which is great that it's part of the universe, but it's kind of not part of the universe because you don't need to know that much. It's like a reboot, but it's not really a reboot. It is a sequel. So it balances so much and just it nails so much, and it's fun. And I think a lot of people, if you haven't seen it yet, should check it out. It is back on HBO Max for good, I believe, now. So if you haven't checked it out, go there, check it out. Great cast, and the highlights of like John Cena and Idris Elba, steal the show here, and Margot Robbie kills it as Harley Quinn again. So turn on TV, check that out. Go get the Blu-ray. Do yourself a favor. I'd highly recommend it. It is number 4 for me. At number 3, this was probably my favorite film of the year for most of the year. I saw this early on, before I started doing reviews on YouTube, and it's the best Disney animated film for sure this year, and that's Raya and the Last Dragon. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. The mythology, the storytelling, the characters were all great. The animation was fantastic, and it just sucked me into this world that they created in this, and I want to see more from it. I know a lot of people had some issues with it. I certainly did too, to an extent. There's certain things, but it's colorful. It's got heart and emotion and tells a very great story. It gave me Avatar, The Last Airbender, the cartoon series vibes. So I think that's what really drew me into it. And just, it was thrilling. I think for whatever reason, that movie nothing could top that for me for the longest time this year. And here it is sitting at number 3. So two things did eventually jump over it, but man, every time I think about it, every time I watch it, this movie is so good, and I would highly recommend it if you have not gone out to see this, or it's on Disney Plus, so go check it out. Everybody's got Disney Plus at this point, right? So find it, check it out, and maybe it's on your list, maybe it's not, but I highly recommend that one as well. At number 2 is a film that I just recently saw, and I really wanted to see this in theaters. It didn't play anywhere near me, I don't think, so I had to sit down and watch it on Amazon Prime, and that is Aaron Sorkin's Being the Ricardos. Oh my God, this movie about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz is fantastic. The time, I won't do a full review here because I didn't do a review on my channel for it, but it essentially takes place in the span of a week, highlighting a week of production on the show I Love Lucy. And you get a little bit of flashback, you get a little bit of drama, and I think Nicole Kidman as uh, Lucille Ball just nails it. She sounds like her, she acts like her, and I think a lot of people might be hoping to get a little bit more of the funny side, but it's a little more serious of a movie, really character driven, and I think they knocked it out of the park. And then you have Javier Bardem playing Desi Arnaz. Does he look like Desi? Not really, but I think he nails the character. He nails what Desi was about, that vibe, and that's what's important here. And I think just everything, the writing. Aaron Sorkin is a grade A writer, and his directorial stuff has been fantastic. Everything I've seen of him since he started directing, I think this is his third film, maybe. I've seen 2 of his 3 films. I have highly enjoyed them, and the noticeable thing from watching those is the impeccable writing. When you sit down and watch this movie, just pay attention to some of the dialogue, how things are structured. You can tell that it was really, really well thought out. I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, but it was just some of the sharpest writing I've seen. Great jokes, great way to tie themes and stuff together. This film, I think, had so much going for it, and I was pleasantly surprised watching this, because I was like, well, hopefully when I see this, this will be a top 10 worthy movie. I always hope about, that any film I see is top 10 worthy for me, but this really just kept shooting up. The farther along in that movie I got, the higher it shot up on the list. And here it is sitting at number 2, and I can't stop gushing about this one either. It's definitely worth your time. A little over 2 hours. Didn't feel that time at all. I was just grinning. All the witty dialogue, all the snarky interactions were fantastic. And then seeing them kind of recreating scenes from I Love Lucy were great and just knocked out of the park. So go check this one out. If you don't have Amazon Prime, get it. It's on Prime Video and worth your time. And that brings me to my number 1 film of the year. Many of you probably know it. If you've watched a lot of my reviews, I did review it. And I'm going to cut to the chase. It's Ghostbusters Afterlife. For whatever reason, not being a big Ghostbusters fan at all, this film just struck so much for me that worked. It hit the emotion. It hit great characters, and it was funny, and I think it had a really nice, tight story. Sure, some stuff were maybe a little convenient, but what movie doesn't often have that? So I was just, I've seen it twice in theaters. I want to see it again. I think it stuck the landing. I think even if I have a little bit of an issue with stuff that happens in the third act of the movie, I can brush it a little bit to the side, and I know it's not perfect, but it still is the best thing I've seen this year. Nothing has engaged me from start to finish, grinning and just having a good time, being emotionally invested than this did. It was a really, really well done film. Like I said in my review, it's like Stranger Things meets the Ghostbusters, and for whatever reason, that combination just nailed it for me and solidified itself as my number 1 film of 2021. And that begs the question I asked you guys at the top, and I'm going to ask you here at the end. What is your top 10 list? Leave it down in the comments. I love seeing people's top 10 lists. I love seeing how different they are from mine, where you position your movies. Like maybe we have the same 10, but you just got them in a different order. I love seeing it. So leave yours down below. And thank you guys for checking out the channel. 2021's been a bit of a better year than it has in the past, and I've loved a lot of the feedback and the interaction I've gotten from people about my channel just starting out. So thank you guys so much as we wrap up 2021, and look forward to 2022, where I'm going to try to do more reviews consistently. It is really hard between work and life and all that, but I have fun doing it. I like putting them out, putting the videos together. So hopefully you guys stick around with me for the next year, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what it brings. And again, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that junk. Share with your friends. It means a lot to me. So without further ado, hopefully you guys have a great New Year's. Be safe, and I will see you guys next year.